The wind carried a soft hum through the wide valley of Terra Nova. The sky above was a deep shade of silver blue, and the twin suns hung low in the horizon. Rows of memorial stones stood in perfect lines across the red field, each one marked with the name of a human who had fallen in the war against the alien Varn. The air smelled of metal and ash even though the war had ended many years ago. Mira walked slowly among the stones. She held a small metal flower in her hand, one she had made herself. The flower was made from broken pieces of an old starship hull. She had polished it until it shone faintly in the sunlight. Her boots pressed softly into the soil as she moved, her shadow stretching long behind her. When she reached the middle of the field, she stopped before a grave marked with the name Aaron Vale. The words were etched deep into the stone. Beneath it were smaller lines that read, Pilot of the Vanguard Unit, Defender of the Human Fleet. Mira's chest tightened as she looked at the name. Her fingers trembled when she placed the metal flower beside the stone. She crouched down, her eyes burning with unshed tears. "Hey, Aaron," she said quietly. "It's been 5 years." Her voice shook slightly. The wind carried her words away, but she kept talking as if he could still hear her. "They gave you a hero's medal after the war. They said your sacrifice saved the colony fleet. But you know what, Aaron? I can't feel proud. I only feel sorry. I should have saved you." Her throat tightened. Memories flooded her mind, sharp and clear. She remembered the last day of the war. The human fleet had been surrounded near the Void Rift. Alien ships swarmed around them, their energy weapons tearing through hulls like paper. Aaron had been the lead pilot in the defense line, flying the ship Falcon 9. Mira had been in the engineering bay of another ship, trying to patch together damaged systems while listening to the frantic voices over the radio. She could still remember Aaron's voice clearly, calm, focused, and strong even in the middle of chaos. "Mira, stay with me," he had said over the comm line. "I'll keep them off your ship." But then his signal had vanished in a burst of static. The screen showed a bright explosion and the Falcon 9 disappeared. Mira had screamed his name, but there had been no reply. The fleet had survived that day, but Iran had not returned. His escape pod had never been found. The commanders listed him as killed in action. Mira had never forgiven herself. Now, years later, she still came to this place every week. The colony had grown since then. New buildings rose near the mountains and the people tried to live normal lives. But Mira still felt trapped in the past. She brushed her fingers across the cold stone. "I rebuilt 3 engines this week," she said softly. "Same old work. The command wants to upgrade the patrol ships, but they never listen to the engineers. You used to say machines have a soul if we listen to them. I never forgot that." She smiled faintly at the memory, but her eyes were still sad. The sound of distant drones hummed through the air as maintenance bots floated over the field, cleaning dust from the memorial stones. She looked up at the sky. "They say peace will last forever. I want to believe that. But sometimes when I work in the hangar and hear the reactors hum, it feels like the war never ended. Like it's waiting to begin again." Her words faded into the wind. Behind her, far across the field, a figure stood between 2 memorial stones. The person wore a dark cloak, the hood pulled low over his face. His boots were heavy and his posture strong. He stood silently, watching Mira from a distance. The man's eyes followed her every movement. His right arm moved stiffly as if made of metal. His left hand clenched and unclenched like he was trying to control his emotions. When Mira stood up and turned to leave, the man stepped back into the shadow of a tree. He did not speak. He only watched as she walked away, her long coat swaying with each step. Once she was gone, he walked slowly toward the same grave she had been kneeling at. He stopped before the name Aaron Vale. The wind brushed against his face, revealing a glimpse of a scar running across his jaw. His eyes were dark but alive. He knelt and ran his gloved hand over the stone. His voice came out rough and quiet. "I'm not dead, Mira." He looked at the metal flower lying beside the stone and smiled faintly. He picked it up and held it in his hand. The edges were sharp but carefully crafted. He recognized the design. It was hers. She used to make small flowers from scrap metal to calm her nerves during long repairs. She used to give them to the crew for luck before each mission. He placed the flower back beside the stone and looked at the horizon. The colony seemed peaceful from here. Shining towers rose beyond the hills, and the sound of distant engines filled the air, but Aaron knew what the people didn't. He had seen what the Varn were building beyond the stars. He had escaped from them after years of imprisonment, but the memories never left him. The war was not truly over. The Varn had learned from humanity, and they were coming back stronger. Aaron stood up and looked toward the colony. His face hardened. "They think I'm gone," he said quietly. "Let them think that for now." He pulled the hood over his head and walked toward the mountains. His steps were slow and heavy, leaving faint marks in the red soil. That evening, Mira returned to the colony. The lights of the settlement glowed softly under the night sky. She lived in a small apartment near the hangar, filled with broken tools, spare parts, and old pictures from her fleet days. On her wall hung a photo of her and Aaron standing beside the Falcon 9, both smiling proudly. She stared at the photo for a long time before sitting by her work table. A broken drone core lay open before her. She began fixing it absent-mindedly, letting her thoughts drift. When she finished, she turned on her datapad and looked at the news reports. The screen showed headlines about new trade routes and mining colonies, but one small article caught her eye. It mentioned an unidentified ship entering orbit and then vanishing before being scanned. The report said it was probably a rogue transport or smuggler vessel, but Mira felt a strange chill as she read it. Something about it felt familiar, but she couldn't explain why. She closed the screen and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "If you were still alive, Aaron," she whispered, "you'd say this world still needs watching." She didn't know that the man she spoke of had already walked through the same colony gate that morning. He had entered quietly, using a false ID and worn armor that hid his identity. The guards didn't recognize him, and he didn't stay long. He only watched from a distance, making sure the colony was safe. For now, that was enough for him. Later that night, the stars over Terra Nova shimmered brighter than usual. The twin moons cast silver light over the valley. The memorial field lay quiet once more, the names on the stones glinting faintly. But if someone had been there to listen, they might have heard a faint hum beneath the earth, like a heartbeat echoing from deep below. The ground near Aaron's grave trembled for a second before becoming still again. The wind moved across the stones, carrying with it the whisper of something returning. Mira dreamed of the war again. She saw the flash of explosions, the burning sky, and Aaron's voice calling through the static. She woke up sweating and gasping for air. The sound of engines outside her window made her jump. When she looked, she saw only a small patrol drone passing by. She rubbed her eyes and sat on the edge of her bed. "I'm losing sleep," she muttered. But somewhere deep inside, she felt a strange pull, as if something from her past was reaching out to her. She didn't know that Aaron was alive. She didn't know he had watched her at the grave that very day. And she didn't know that in a few days her life would change forever. Far beyond the colony, hidden among the mountain ranges, Aaron stood in front of a small cave where he had hidden a crashed Varn shuttle. The hull was scarred and covered in dust. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its surface. Inside, a console flickered to life as he pressed a few buttons. A holographic image appeared showing the map of nearby space. Red markers spread across the screen, enemy signals. He clenched his fist. "They're already here," he said softly. He looked toward the colony lights in the distance. "I have to warn them. I have to warn her." The cave fell silent as he powered down the console. He stepped outside, the cold night wind brushing against his face. He pulled his hood tighter and started down the trail. The stars above watched silently as the man who was thought dead walked again upon human soil. And back in the colony, Mira slept restlessly, unaware that the past she thought buried was already walking toward her. The morning on Terra Nova began with soft sunlight pouring through the mist that hung over the mountains. The colony stirred to life as workers filled the streets, drones hovered over the rooftops, and the hum of machines echoed in the air. The sound of life on the planet had a rhythm, as if the colony itself was breathing again after years of silence from war. Mira walked toward the hangar as she did every morning. Her uniform was stained with grease, and her hands were covered in tiny cuts from the machines she repaired. She liked the noise of the hangar. The sound of engines, tools, and voices helped her forget her memories for a while. Inside, engineers moved between ships, adjusting control panels and tightening bolts. The large sliding doors were open, showing the wide valley beyond. Mira stopped for a moment and looked at the horizon. The sunlight made the red sand glow and the tall towers of the colony shone like silver glass. "Morning, Mira," said her coworker Dalen, walking toward her with a tablet in his hand. "Morning," she replied, forcing a small smile. "You were at the memorial field again yesterday," Dalen said gently. "You should take a break sometimes." "I'm fine," she answered. "I just like visiting. It reminds me why we work." Dalen nodded. "I get it. But we got new repair orders from Command. They want all long-range patrol ships ready before the end of the week." Mira sighed and picked up her toolkit. "All right, let's get to work." They spent hours repairing old engines and checking plasma converters. The hangar was hot, filled with the smell of fuel and metal. As she worked, Mira's mind wandered back to the strange article she had read the night before about an unidentified ship in orbit. Something about it made her uneasy. When her shift ended, she went to the hangar's balcony that overlooked the landing field. She leaned against the rail and looked at the sky. The twin suns were setting and the clouds glowed orange. She spoke softly to herself. Aaron would have loved this view. Behind her, a voice replied quietly, "He still does." Mira turned quickly, but no one was there. She frowned, thinking she must have imagined it. She shook her head and walked back inside. Far from the colony, in the shadow of the mountains, Aaron stood in front of a small fire near the crashed Varn shuttle. His face was half lit by the flames, showing the tired lines that years of survival had carved into his features. He wore black armor with faint blue lines that pulsed softly, technology he had stolen from the Varn to keep himself alive. He remembered everything about the day he should have died. The void rift had torn open space like a wound. The Varn ships had appeared out of it, firing plasma beams that burned through the human fleet. His fighter had taken several hits, and when he tried to eject, the escape system had failed. He remembered screaming as his ship spun toward the rift, but instead of death, he had woken up inside a strange chamber filled with light. The Varn had captured him. They studied him like an animal, curious about human resilience. He had seen other prisoners, but they had not survived the experiments. The Varn wanted to understand how humans could keep fighting, even when outnumbered and outmatched. They wanted that strength for themselves. For years, Aaron was forced to work inside their machines. They implanted alien devices into his body, merging his nervous system with their technology. It was painful, but it also gave him knowledge. He learned how their ships worked, how they thought, and how to escape. One night, when the Varn station powered down for maintenance, he used their own weapons against them. He stole a shuttle and fled through the rift, returning to human space. When he reached Terra Nova's orbit, he was half dead, but he was home. Now he sat by the fire, staring into the flames. He still couldn't bring himself to face Mira. She had moved on, or so he thought. Seeing her at his grave had nearly broken him. He wanted to tell her everything, but he knew that if the colony found out he was alive, the command would come for him. He reached into his pack and took out a small device that projected a blue map into the air. Red dots glowed across the projection. They represented Varn probes entering human space. There were more of them now than when he escaped. He frowned. "They are preparing for invasion," he said to himself. "And no one knows." He looked at the colony lights in the distance. "I need help. I need her." That night, Mira couldn't sleep. She sat by her window, watching the stars. The twin moons moved slowly across the sky. Something inside her felt restless, as if the air itself was heavy with secrets. She turned on her datapad again, searching for more information about the unidentified ship. But the report was gone. Every trace of it had been deleted from the network. When she tried to reopen the file, the system displayed a message. "Access denied. Classified information." Her heart beat faster. She was an engineer, not a soldier, but she had seen enough during the war to know what that meant. Someone in command was hiding something. She closed the device and leaned back in her chair. "If only Aaron were here," she whispered. "He would know what to do." At that same moment, far outside the colony, Aaron activated a hidden transmitter. The small device glowed blue and sent out a short, encrypted message. It carried his voice, low and distorted. Mira, if you can hear this, the Varn are returning. They changed me, but I am still human. Don't trust command. Find the truth. He knew she might not receive it, but it was worth trying. The signal traveled through the colony network. Disguised as maintenance data, he switched off the device and stepped away from the fire. He would go to the colony the next night. He needed to see her again, even if only for a moment. The next morning, Mira arrived at the hangar early. She checked the diagnostic reports, and one file caught her eye. A repair drone had picked up a faint transmission during the night, but the message was unreadable. She connected her datapad to the system and tried to decode it. After several attempts, the message began to play. At first, it was only static. Then a familiar voice came through. Mira, the Varn are returning. They changed me. Don't trust command. Her hands froze. Her eyes widened in disbelief. The voice was rough, deeper than before, but it was his. Aaron, she whispered. She replayed the message again and again, trying to make sure she wasn't imagining it. The tone, the rhythm, even the way he said her name. It was him. She looked around quickly, afraid someone might see her. Then she saved the message to her private files and deleted the log from the system. Her thoughts raced. If Aaron was alive, why would he warn her not to trust command? And what did he mean by "they changed me"? She decided to keep the message a secret. For now, she would act normal, but throughout the day, she couldn't focus. Every sound in the hangar made her flinch. Every shadow reminded her of him. That evening, she left the colony and walked toward the edge of the valley. The sun was setting behind the mountains. She carried a flashlight and a small pulse pistol for safety. The path was quiet, with only the sound of wind moving through the tall grass. When she reached the ridge that overlooked the forest, she stopped. A faint light flickered in the distance. It wasn't a colony beacon. It looked like a fire. Her heart raced. Maybe it's him, she whispered. She hesitated for a moment, then began walking toward the light. Aaron was waiting near the cave entrance. He had deactivated the fire and checked the perimeter with his scanner. The signal showed movement approaching from the colony side. He reached for his sidearm but didn't raise it. A few minutes later, he saw her. She moved carefully, scanning the area with her flashlight. When the light passed over him, he stepped out of the shadow. Mira, he said softly. She froze. The flashlight dropped from her hand and rolled across the ground. Her eyes widened as she saw him clearly for the first time. He looked older, stronger, and different. His right arm had metallic plates running along it. Faint blue lights pulsed under his skin. His eyes, once bright and calm, now glowed slightly in the dark. Her voice broke. Aaron, is it really you? He nodded slowly. It's me. She took a step closer, her hand trembling. But how? We buried you. I was taken, he said quietly. The Varn didn't kill me. They captured me. I escaped, but I'm not the same. She looked at him with a mix of shock and relief. I thought I failed you. I thought you were gone forever. He shook his head. You didn't fail me. You kept the colony alive. You kept our people safe. Mira took another step closer and looked into his eyes. Why did you send that message? What's happening? Aaron looked toward the sky. They're coming back. The Varn are preparing for another war, and command knows it. They're hiding it from the people. She stared at him in disbelief. That can't be true. It is, he said firmly. I saw their fleets. They've learned from us. They're stronger now, and if we don't act soon, Terra Nova will fall. Mira felt a chill run through her body. What do? We find proof, Aaron said. We show the colony the truth. He reached out his hand. Will you help me? She hesitated for only a moment before taking his hand. His grip was firm and warm despite the metal in his skin. Yes, she said. I'll help you. Aaron gave a small nod. Then it begins again. Humanity must stand together. or we will lose everything we fought for." As the night deepened, the two of them stood side by side, their shadows merging under the starlight. Neither spoke for a long time. The silence was filled with the weight of what was coming. The next day began with a cold wind sweeping through the mountains of Terra Nova. The colony looked peaceful from a distance, but under that calm surface, both Mira and Aaron knew the storm of truth was building. Inside the cave where the crashed Varn shuttle rested, the air was filled with the hum of strange energy. The walls of the alien ship glowed faintly with blue lines that pulsed like veins. Aaron moved between control panels, pressing symbols that responded to his touch. The alien technology still reacted to him because of the implants the Varn had left in his body. Mira stood near the entrance, watching silently. Her eyes shifted between Aaron and the glowing panels. She had seen many machines in her life, but nothing like this. The wall seemed alive, breathing softly. "Are you sure this thing is safe?" she asked. Aaron looked back at her. "Safe enough for now. It still has power, but I've locked the core. If anyone scans this place, they'll think it's just a rock formation." Mira stepped closer, examining the console. "These symbols look strange. They almost look like letters, but not from any language I know. They're part of the Varn command script," Aaron explained. "They use patterns instead of words. Each shape carries a sound, a thought, and an order. It took me years to understand even a few of them." She looked at him with a mix of amazement and concern. "Years? How long were you trapped?" 5 years, maybe more," Aaron said quietly. "Time passed differently out there. They studied everything about humans. They wanted to understand why we kept fighting. When I escaped, I brought this ship with me. It holds the proof we need." "What proof?" "That command has known about the Varn all along. They made a deal with them after the war. The Varn gave them technology, and in return, command promised to stay silent about the experiments. I heard it from the Varn themselves." Mira's eyes widened. "You mean command is working with the same enemy that killed millions?" Aaron nodded grimly. "They want power. The Varn offered them new energy cores and weapons. Command believes it will keep humanity safe, but it's a trap. The Varn never share without purpose. They're preparing to use us again." Mira clenched her fists. "We have to show the people the truth." Aaron turned to a glowing device on the table. It was a transparent cube filled with light that swirled like liquid. "This holds recordings from their ships. It shows everything, but it's encrypted. I need your help to unlock it." She stepped closer. "What can I do?" "You know human systems better than anyone. If we can merge their data with ours, we can make it readable. Once we have the proof, we'll send it to every network in the colony. No one will be able to hide it," Mira nodded. "Then let's do it." For hours they worked together. Mira used her datapad and linked it with the cube through an interface Iran had built. The air in the cave filled with the faint sound of beeping and mechanical hums. Lines of alien code appeared on her screen, shifting faster than her eyes could follow. She frowned. "Their system is advanced. It keeps changing shape every few seconds. It's like it knows we're trying to read it." "It's alive," Aaron said. "The Varn build machines that think. But I can hold the pattern steady for a short time." He placed his metal hand on the cube. Blue light spread through his arm as the implant connected with the alien data. His face tightened in pain, but he didn't stop. "Are you all right?" Mira asked quickly. "I can handle it," he said through clenched teeth. "Just keep decoding." She worked faster, typing commands, merging code, and rerouting signals. The screen flickered, then cleared. An image appeared showing a dark space filled with stars. Then a fleet of ships came into view, hundreds of them shaped like blades of light. The Varn fleet, Mira stared in shock. "That's their army." The image changed again. This time it showed a communication between two human officers wearing command uniforms. They were talking to a Varn figure. The sound was faint but clear enough. One of the officers said, "The people don't need to know the truth. As long as the colonies stay quiet, we can rebuild." "The Varn will keep their distance," the alien voice replied. "Your time is short. When the next phase begins, you will serve or fall." Then the image faded to black. Mira's breath caught in her throat. "They're working together." "It's real," Aaron nodded. "Now you see why I came back. We can't let command control this secret. Humanity has a right to know." Mira saved the recording onto a secure drive and slipped it into her pocket. "We need to get this to the central hub. The network tower in the colony can broadcast it to every channel." Aaron stepped back and powered down the console. "We'll go tonight. The fewer people who see us, the better." As night fell, they began the long walk back toward the colony. The wind grew stronger, carrying dust across the open plain. The lights of the city shimmered faintly in the distance. Mira kept glancing at Ron as they walked. His steps were silent, his eyes scanning the horizon like a soldier. There was a sadness in him, a weight that never left. "Aaron," she said softly, "when you were with the Varn, did you ever think you'd come back?" He looked up at the stars. "Every day. It was the only thing that kept me alive. I kept thinking of home. I kept thinking of you." Mira looked down, trying to hide the warmth in her eyes. "You never gave up," he smiled faintly. "Humans never do." They reached the edge of the colony near midnight. The tall defense walls glowed with blue lights and automated drones moved along the perimeter. Mira led him through a maintenance tunnel that only engineers used. Inside, the tunnel was narrow and filled with pipes. The sound of dripping water echoed off the walls. They walked in silence until they reached a small control room that opened into the city's lower district. "We can reach the tower from here," Mira whispered. "It's just a few blocks away." Aaron checked the scanner on his wrist. "We're clear for now, but I'm picking up strange signals. Someone's tracking us." Before Mira could answer, a faint metallic sound echoed through the tunnel behind them. Aaron pulled her aside and drew his sidearm. The light at the end of the tunnel flickered, and 3 small drones floated into view. Their sensors glowed red. "Command drones," Aaron said sharply. "They know." The drones fired thin beams of blue light. Aaron pushed Mira down and returned fire. Sparks flew as the beams hit the walls. One drone exploded, but the other 2 kept advancing. Mira grabbed a wrench from her belt and threw it at one of them, hitting its sensor. It spun out of control and crashed into a pipe. Aaron shot the last one and turned to her. "Nice throw," she smiled briefly. "Guess my aim's not bad." They moved quickly through the tunnel and reached the exit near the lower streets. The colony was quiet at this hour. Street lamps glowed softly and the air smelled of rain. They blended into the shadows, moving toward the central tower. The tower stood tall in the center of the colony. It was the heart of communication for all human settlements on Terra Nova. Mira used her ID card to access a side door, and they slipped inside. The interior was bright and filled with humming machines. Screens displayed maps, messages, and data streams. They climbed a narrow staircase until they reached the control floor. Mira sat at the console and began connecting the drive. "Once I upload this, every screen in the colony will show the recording." Aaron watched the entrance, his weapon ready. "Do it fast." "They'll be coming." She worked quickly, typing commands. The screen displayed a progress bar. 50%, 60, 70. Then the door burst open. A group of soldiers in command uniforms entered with weapons raised. "Step away from the console," the leader shouted. Mira froze. Aaron stepped in front of her. "You're too late," he said. The leader's eyes widened as he saw him. "You're supposed to be dead." "Not yet," Aaron replied. The soldiers opened fire. Aaron moved fast, using the alien strength that still flowed through him. He grabbed a metal panel from the wall and used it as a shield. The shots ricocheted off it. Mira ducked behind the console, her fingers still on the keyboard. 90%. 95. Aaron threw the panel forward, knocking 2 soldiers down. He moved like a shadow, disarming another and striking with precision. Mira hit the final command key. 100%. The upload completed. Every screen in the colony lit up with the image of the Varn fleet and the secret meeting. The soldiers stopped firing, their faces pale with shock. The truth was out. Aaron grabbed Mira's hand. "We have to move." They ran down the stairs as alarms echoed through the building. Outside, citizens began to gather, pointing at the screens showing the recording. Whispers filled the streets. The people had seen everything. They escaped into the old industrial district, hiding in a storage bay. Mira leaned against the wall, catching her breath. "It worked," she said. "Everyone saw it." Aaron nodded. "Command will try to deny it, but the truth is stronger than lies." She looked at him, her voice soft. "What happens now?" Aaron looked toward the glowing horizon where the twin moons hung low. "Now humanity decides what kind of future it wants. The Varn will come. Command will try to control everything. But this time we fight for our own freedom." Mira smiled faintly. "Together?" "Together," he said. Outside, the colony was waking up. People shouted in the streets. Soldiers ran toward the tower. And somewhere above, unseen in the dark sky, distant ships began to move. The real war had not ended. It had only been waiting. The city of Terra Nova was in chaos. Screens across the colony flickered with the shocking recordings that Mira had uploaded. Citizens gathered in streets, pointing at the images of the Varn fleet and the secret meetings between command officers and the alien figures. Voices rose in anger, fear, and disbelief. Mira and Aaron moved through the narrow alleyways of the lower district, keeping to the shadows. They had been spotted on surveillance cameras and soldiers were already searching for them. But Aaron's experience, gained from years surviving the Varn, allowed them to move silently and quickly. "We need to reach the old memorial field," Aaron whispered. "It's the only place we can make a stand." Mira nodded. Her heart pounded, but her mind was clear. She carried the secure drive containing all the recordings. The colony now knew the truth, but command would not give up without a fight. They moved past empty market stalls and abandoned streets. The city had no lights in the lower districts giving them cover, but the silence was tense. Every corner could hide a soldier or a drone. As they reached the edge of the city, Aaron stopped suddenly. His body stiffened. Mira looked at him. "Something's here," he said. His metallic arm glinted faintly under the moonlight. From the shadows, 3 drones appeared, hovering silently. Their sensors glowed red. Aaron pushed Mira behind a crate and drew his sidearm. The drones fired beams of blue light, hitting the walls with sparks. Aaron moved with precision. He struck one drone with his arm, sending it spinning into a wall. He kicked another into the ground and shot the third in quick succession. Mira held her breath, watching him. His speed and strength were more than human now, enhanced by the implants from the Varn. When the drones fell silent, Aaron grabbed Mira's arm. "We must keep moving. They'll send more." The memorial field was closer now. The tall stone markers were barely visible in the night, casting long shadows on the red soil. Mira and Aaron crouched behind a large memorial stone and surveyed the area. The field was deserted except for a few guards patrolling at the far edge. The silence was broken by the distant hum of patrol ships above. Aaron whispered, "We use the terrain to our advantage. The field has tunnels underneath the memorial stones. I mapped them out years ago. They lead to a chamber under the largest monument. We can reach it without being seen." Mira nodded. "Lead the way." They slipped into the first tunnel entrance. The passage was narrow, with low ceilings and faint light from phosphorescent panels. Dust covered the walls, but it was dry and stable. As they moved deeper, Aaron explained more. These tunnels were built during the early years of the colony as emergency shelters. I used them to hide from command's patrols when I first returned. They don't know the full extent of the underground network. Mira followed closely. "I never knew these existed." "They're perfect. Perfect for hiding," Aaron said, "and for planning our next move." At the end of the tunnel, they entered a large chamber beneath the oldest memorial stone. The space was wide, with enough room for several people to move around. Aaron activated a console embedded in the wall. A holographic map of the colony appeared, showing streets, surveillance towers, and patrol routes. Mira studied the map. "If we can control the communications, we can broadcast the recordings to every settlement on Terra Nova. That way, no one can hide the truth." "Yes," Aaron said. "But we need time. Command will send more forces. They won't let this go easily." Mira placed the secure drive into the console. The holographic map showed a progress bar as the data began uploading to multiple networks simultaneously. While the upload continued, Aaron spoke quietly. "I need to tell you everything about the Varn. You've seen some, but there's more." Mira listened intently as Aaron explained. "The Varn don't just attack. They study, adapt, and manipulate. They've learned from every encounter with humans. My body carries their technology now. They can track anyone with even the smallest link to me." Mira frowned. "That means they can find us," "Yes," he said. "But they don't know this location. For now, we have a chance to act." Suddenly, the tunnel entrance shook. Mira and Aaron ducked as the wall vibrated from external explosions. Command forces had found another entrance. Soldiers in armored suits were moving quickly, clearing obstacles. Drones hovered above, scanning for movement. Aaron activated a defensive system. Energy barriers projected from the walls, blocking entry points. Sparks flew as the first wave of attackers hit the shields. Mira focused on the console. "Upload is at 70%, she said. "Keep going," Aaron said. He moved toward the incoming soldiers. His metallic arm glinted as he deflected a strike from one of the armored men. He pushed another back with enhanced strength, sending him crashing into a support column. The sounds of combat echoed through the tunnel. Mira's hands shook, but she didn't stop typing. She knew that every second counted. At 90%, the remaining soldiers attempted to break the barrier by using a powerful energy cutter. Aaron blocked the path and moved quickly, disabling the device with a strike that sent it flying against the wall. Mira hit the final command to complete the upload. The progress bar reached 100%. The console emitted a soft chime and the holographic map faded. "We did it," she whispered. "Yes," Aaron said. "Now the people know the truth." They moved back into the tunnel, preparing to leave before reinforcements arrived. The sounds of shouting and alarms echoed in the distance. Citizens in the streets were watching the screens broadcast across the colony. The truth about Command's secret dealings and the Varn's return was spreading rapidly. As they emerged from the tunnel, Aaron and Mira saw crowds gathering. Soldiers and drones were trying to regain control, but the people stood together, holding up devices, recording and sharing the information. Citizens were no longer afraid to speak out. Aaron looked at Mira. "The people are waking up. They know now. This is the start of change." Mira smiled faintly. "It's more than I hoped for." "But what about the Varn? They're still out there." Aaron's expression hardened. "They are preparing. We have to make sure the colonies are ready. We can't wait for another attack." The night air was filled with the hum of engines, the shouts of citizens, and the faint blue glow from drones above. The Varn ships could appear at any moment, but humanity was no longer blind. Mira looked at Aaron, her eyes full of determination. "We'll fight together," Aaron nodded. "Together. This time humanity will not wait for the enemy to strike first. We will stand, and we will rise stronger than ever." Above the colony, the stars shone brightly. Somewhere far beyond the atmosphere, distant ships moved silently. The war was coming, but this time humanity was ready. In the quiet moments after the chaos, Mira and Aaron found a small rooftop to rest. The city below was alive with activity. Screens still broadcast the recordings, and the people whispered among themselves, planning, deciding, awakening to the reality they had been denied. Mira placed her hand on Aaron's arm. "Do you think they'll forgive, Command?" Aaron shook his head. "Some will, some won't. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the people are awake. They will decide their own fate." She nodded. "And we'll help them fight if the Varn come." "Yes," he said. "We'll be ready. Humanity has survived before, and we will survive again." They watched the twin moons rise slowly, their silver light reflecting off the colony towers. The night was calm now, but it carried a promise of struggle, hope, and resilience. For the first time since his return, Aaron allowed himself to feel a sense of peace. He had come back to a world that believed he was gone, and now he had a chance to protect it. Mira rested her head on his shoulder. "I'm glad you're here," she whispered. Aaron looked down at her and smiled softly. "I never left, Mira, not really." The night stretched on, carrying the soft wind through the city. Far above, unseen in the cold depths of space, the Varn fleet slowly moved closer to human settlements. But this time, they would find a humanity that refused to be defeated. The morning on Terra Nova began with a quiet tension. After the broadcasts showing Command's secret dealings and the Varn fleet's preparations, the colony was awake, but unsettled. Citizens gathered in groups discussing what they had seen, while soldiers and officials tried to maintain order. The truth was out, but the storm was only beginning. Mira and Aaron had returned to the memorial field. The red soil beneath their boots was calm, almost peaceful compared to the chaos in the city. The same rows of stones that had marked human sacrifice now stood as silent witnesses to a new beginning. Mira stopped at Aaron's grave. She looked down at the metal flower she had placed before and remembered the first time she knelt there. Her heart ached with the memory of loss, but now the feeling was different. There was hope. She knelt slowly and whispered, "I'm sorry I didn't save you." Behind her, a figure stepped lightly on the soft soil. Mira's breath caught as she realized he was alive. She turned slowly, and there he was, Aaron, standing before her. His face, though scarred from the Varn's experiments, carried the same calm strength she remembered. His eyes met hers, warm and alive. "You did," he said softly. "You kept believing. You never gave up on me." Mira's eyes filled with tears. Relief, joy, and the weight of years of guilt all mixed together. "I thought I failed you," she whispered. "No," he replied. "You helped humanity survive. That was more important than anything else. They stood in silence for a moment, letting the wind move across the field. It was quiet here, yet filled with significance. The stones around them told stories of sacrifice, and now they would witness a story of survival and return. Aaron looked toward the city. The Varn are moving. They know the truth now, and they won't come slowly. Their fleet will arrive soon. Mira's gaze followed his. We need to warn everyone. We need to prepare. Aaron nodded. I've already contacted a few loyal engineers and soldiers. They are organizing defense positions and preparing the colony's fleet, but we must act quickly. They returned to the hidden tunnels under the memorial field. The network of underground passages led them to a command chamber that Iran had prepared years before. The room was filled with equipment, old and new, gathered and adapted to human use. Consoles hummed softly, lights flickered, and holographic maps of Terra Nova and surrounding space projected into the air. Mira began activating systems. We can use this to coordinate defenses and alert neighboring colonies. Aaron moved beside her, checking sensors and inputting commands. Yes, the Varn's approach will be sudden. We need early warning and maximum coordination. Together, they worked tirelessly. Their movements were synchronized. The combination of Mira's human engineering knowledge and Aaron's experience with Varn technology proving invaluable. By midday, the preparations were nearly complete. Citizens were trained in defense positions, patrol ships were armed, and energy barriers around the colony were activated. Holographic alerts warned people of potential strikes, giving them time to move to safe zones. Aaron stood on the balcony of the command chamber, looking out at the valley. Mira joined him. They'll be here soon, she said. Aaron's eyes were sharp, scanning the horizon. Yes, but this time humanity is ready. We won't be caught by surprise. We have the technology, the people, and the truth on our side. Mira nodded. And we fight together. Together, Aaron agreed. As night fell, the twin moons reflected their silver light across the valley. The first signals of the Varn fleet appeared on sensors. Small ships at the edge of human space moving swiftly toward Terra Nova. Iran and Mira stood in the command chamber, coordinating defense teams. Patrol ships took positions in orbit. Drones patrolled the skies and energy barriers activated around key structures. The colony was alive with preparation, every citizen aware of the coming danger. A communication console beeped. A neighboring colony reported Varn ships approaching their sector. Aaron activated the transmission and addressed all defense units. Citizens of Terra Nova and neighboring colonies, the Varn fleet is moving toward us. We have been warned and we are ready. Stand together, trust in one another, and defend your homes. Humanity will survive because we refuse to give up. This is our moment to rise. The transmission was repeated across multiple channels. Voices across Terra Nova echoed with resolve. The fear of the unknown began to shift into determination. In the dark of the night, the first Varn ships appeared in the sky. Their sleek bodies reflected the twin moons, and energy weapons glimmered along their hulls. The fleet moved in a formation that was both beautiful and terrifying. Aaron activated the colony's orbital defense turrets. Lasers and energy beams sliced through the night as the Varn ships fired first. Patrol ships returned fire, weaving through the sky with remarkable precision. Mira monitored the communications and shield systems, ensuring no breach would occur. The barriers are holding, she said. Everyone is in position. Aaron glanced at her. Good. Keep them steady. The battle above was fierce, but Terra Nova's people were prepared. For every attack the Varn launched, humanity had a counter. Drones intercepted energy beams, patrol ships struck weak points, and citizens in defense positions coordinated with astonishing precision. As the battle raged, Aaron noticed a small fleet of Varn ships attempting to flank the colony. He immediately dispatched patrol units to intercept them. Mira rerouted energy to the eastern barriers to prevent any breach. The two of them moved together like a single unit. Their actions synchronized with perfect timing, inspired by the urgency of survival and the weight of what had come before. Citizens began shouting messages of encouragement over communication channels. Children and adults alike operated defense systems under supervision, proving that humanity's strength lay not just in technology, but in courage, determination, and unity. Hours passed. The sky was filled with streaks of energy and explosions. The colony held, and slowly, the Varn fleet began to falter. The coordinated defense, combined with early warnings and clever tactics, inflicted heavy losses on the invaders. Finally, the Varn commander ordered a retreat. The remaining ships sped away, leaving behind the silence of space. Terra Nova had survived. Mira collapsed onto a nearby bench, exhausted but exhilarated. Aaron joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We did it," he said softly. "Yes," she replied, smiling faintly. "Humanity is still standing." He looked out at the valley. "This is only the beginning. The Varn will return, but now we know what they are capable of. We will be ready next time," Mira nodded, "and we'll fight together no matter what." The night after the battle, the memorial field was quiet once more. Mira and Aaron walked slowly among the stones, past the rows that commemorated those who had fallen in previous conflicts. The wind brushed against their faces, and the twin moons reflected silver light across the red soil. Mira stopped at Iran's grave. She placed a fresh metal flower, one she had crafted that morning. She knelt slowly, her eyes scanning the horizon. "I'm sorry I didn't save you before," she whispered. Aaron stepped behind her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. She turned, startled, and their eyes met. "You did," he said softly. "Your hope, your courage, your belief in humanity, that is what saved me and what will save our world again." Mira felt tears in her eyes, but they were not of sorrow. They were tears of relief, love, and gratitude. She smiled, leaning slightly against him. Aaron looked down at the grave surrounding them. These people gave everything so humanity could survive. We honor them by continuing their fight, by rising stronger, and by never giving up. Mira nodded. "We will make sure their sacrifice was not in vain." In the days that followed, Terra Nova began rebuilding. The colony fortified defenses, repaired ships, and shared knowledge of the Varn threat with neighboring settlements. Citizens worked together, united in purpose and spirit. Aaron and Mira became symbols of resilience and hope. Their story of survival, courage, and return inspired countless others. Humanity had been tested and found stronger than ever. One evening, Mira returned to the grave one final time. She knelt quietly, placing another metal flower. She whispered, "Thank you for coming back. Thank you for showing me that hope never dies." Aaron stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder. "And thank you for never giving up, Mira. That is why we are here. That is why humanity will continue to rise." They stood together, looking at the stars above Terra Nova. The Varn fleet was still out there, somewhere in the vast expanse of space. But humanity was awake. They would no longer wait to be attacked. They would face any challenge together, united in courage, strength, and belief.